Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to Downsizing Roadmap podcast. Today, we've got a topic that can weigh heavily on people, and also just by the volume, the bulk and the size of it can be a big stopping point in getting rid of clutter and reducing what you have. So we're talking about sentimental furniture and when that becomes a stand-in for grief or identity, or maybe people that aren't with you anymore, that just having that makes you feel closer to them.
Yeah, like a little bit past, like, should I keep it? Well, the should word is always, it's got a little guilt left. Guilt is not a gift, right? So should you, but why are you? Like, what is the deeper, part of it? Do you love it? If you love it, great. Then we don't even need to talk about it. But if you don't love it and you're keeping it, why? What's going on there?
Yeah, a good question to start with as you're looking at something like that is, do I want this piece, whatever it is, in my future, or am I just afraid of being the one who lets it go?
Yeah, that is so guilt-driven right there, like so guilt-driven, right? This topic, I think, resonates a little bit because we see so many people, and we are in so many people's houses, as we're talking about helping them downsize or helping them move, and we get, hey, that was grandma's hutch, that was, mom's sewing machine, that was this, that, and the other thing. And sometimes they say it in ways like, oh my gosh, that was my grandma's hutch, and it holds that china that was hers too, and it just makes me happy. And sometimes they say it like, that's my grandma's old sewing machine, and I don't know what to do with it, but there it is. And they say it, I don't want to do it in a way like, I feel like I shouldn't get rid of it because it was my mom's. And I'm talking about, when I say that, it's usually like those ones in the wood, like the whole big sewing machine, because it doesn't really have
the furniture piece
a
sewing
purpose.
Machine.
I mean, it's a sewing machine, but it's not like you can store things in it really, because the sewing machine was in it. So, and they kind of feel like, and it's not just those things, but they kind of feel like I shouldn't get rid of it. And so digging a little deeper with yourself on that of, why is that? What's resonating inside you around that? And is that something you should hold on to, or something that you can let go of once you let go of those reasons?
I think we're at the cusp of, seeing that full circle change in society with that more disposable lifestyle, is that things have come down through generations, stopping at some of the generations we're at now, because they were treasured as setting up that next household with the hand-me-downs from other generations, and just really different quality of furniture and things that were built. And so it came down, and so likely things have come for generations without the guilt. And now we're in a society where you can run out and have, you don't even have to run out. You have it delivered to your door within a couple of days. Something that is a changing style, you can change that more often. Your decor changes more often. It doesn't stay the same for 40 years like it has in past generations. But then the guilt comes with it, because you're the first generation to have to say, I'm okay with getting rid of it, and make that breaking point of,
right,
I don't need this, and frankly, I don't want the style of it. I love the person that it came from, but I don't necessarily want it.
I think that, people living longer, they, the adult kids already have the house fully set up too. Like, I think that is something that happens. And, so they don't have anywhere to put it. Like, they already have lots of their own things. as well.
Yeah.
And furniture, like you said, is more disposable, less expensive. It used to be really expensive to buy furniture, and so you did hand it down, or maybe grandpa made that table, or whatever that is, and so you did hand it down because it wasn't as easy to get it, didn't come to your door, and it was more expensive, relatively in the time frame. And so now, because we have those kind of obstacles around it, we can make decisions about whether we want to keep it or not. But our emotions, and some people are very sentimental and some people aren't. If you're not a sentimental person, this probably is not a problem for you.
Yeah.
But if you are a sentimental person, this is stuff that can really, really weigh on you. And stuff is heavy, I think, physically heavy, but also very emotionally heavy. And so it can weigh on you in a way that it actually weighs on your life. Like it can, crowd your spaces and weigh in your mind and those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when someone's household is dealt with when they pass away too, a lot of things get moved in that, I need to get this out of the house, and, a feeling of perceived value of because things are bigger, furniture, whatever, that it has more of a value, and just giving it all away feels bigger than it actually is in a monetary value.
Yeah.
Just because of its big, its size.
Yeah.
It's not 2 boxes at the, donation center. It's a truck full of things. So it comes where maybe it shouldn't. And then you have the feeling of ownership layered on top of it. And
responsible
figuring
for
out,
owning it.
and figuring out the logistics now that you've went to all that trouble to get it unloaded, at the next place. It just is a cycle.
Yeah.
That's a little bit harder to break with these big items.
Yeah, we have a stat where it says 53% of boomers are keeping furniture solely out of guilt.
Oh my gosh.
That's more than half.
Yes.
More than half.
Yeah.
And that they're not storing furniture, they're storing the pressure to keep somebody else's legacy, right? It was something that they chose, or maybe it got given down to them and they couldn't deal with getting rid of it, or whatever that is, but it wasn't something you chose. It's something that is yours now without your choice.
Yeah.
And so, you're preserving their legacy or their procrastination or whatever that is. And so you're feeling guilty about it. I think one of the first places you can really think is, where is it in the house? Is it in the basement?
Yeah.
Or the garage? Or the storage area? Or the guest room?
Yeah.
Or, where did you find to put it? Kind of first gives you an idea of, is that something that you love and you want in a prominent place because you love to look at it? Or is that something you've found a place for in your home because you feel like you need to keep it?
Yeah. I have a table from when my grandpa passed away. My grandma had already passed away. Gosh, I was 20, I think. So it's been a long time. And there was a side table that had lived in their dinette area in their house. And that was one thing, when we were asked if we wanted anything, I wanted that. And it lived through apartments I lived in at the time and house I was in for 20 years. And now that we're in our new house, it holds the memory from my grandparents' house, and it holds the memory of where it lived in the house, where I raised my kids. And there is no place for it that makes sense. Not even just looks wise, but there's not a place that makes sense in my new house. And I'm struggling a little. I mean, this episode resonates a little bit because the place it will land is the basement.
Right.
And not in use. And I'm do I keep that? And I mean, I shouldn't. And I haven't made that final step yet of.
Well, and I think that you hit on it exactly right, because the sentimental part of it is that's proof that I loved my grandparents, or that's, proof that, it's a symbol of your childhood there,
the memories
you know,
around
the
their
memories,
house.
yeah. And you know, maybe you feel a little bit of obligation to keep it since you've had it so long, and you've been the one who's been shepherding it through, you know, life for a while, and so, you know, that's where the sentimental feelings come in.
Yeah, but like Jody said, if it's only those sentimental feelings and it's in your garage or your basement,
you're not honoring it.
Yeah, you're not honoring it, and it's time to just keep those stories and let it go serve a purpose somewhere
because
else.
then it turns into, you look at it and you're in the basement, you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's over there. Like, not like, oh, I remember my grandparents, you know, like it just turns into a different kind of feeling.
It's even more guilt that I'm not honoring it by having it out and using it.
Right.
And so many emotional layers, guys.
It is. And sometimes, and we've met these people many times. They are the default keeper of the things, right? And so if somebody in the family can't make a decision about what should happen with these things, then somebody gets it, often the oldest adult daughter. Ask us how we know. But that's, or the one who's sentimental. There's, usually if you have siblings, there's somebody who's sentimental and something's happening with the stuff, and that one will be like, oh, it's fine, I'll take it to my house, even whether they don't have room or not. And so we've had people come up to us at our classes and be like, I have all of my grandma's stuff and all of my, my mom just passed away. Now I have all her stuff. And I'm like, where do you live in your house? Like, how do you breathe through that?
And we had that conversation with someone we met a couple years ago, and she was talking about one of their relatives. She had, I think, a storage unit or two of their stuff. And we're like, okay. And, in talking with her, she was okay to give it up, but she's like, but my dad doesn't want me to. Yeah. And so she was carrying his guilt as an emotion on herself now, and it was just such a cycle of, when you're that keeper of the family.
And I bet they couldn't even, Dad probably couldn't, and she probably couldn't name 10 things that were in that storage unit. They just knew that as a collection, it was grandma's, and now, we have to keep it, right? And so not the individual things or, any of it. It's just this, and sometimes when you have grief, like you feel like that, it's almost a blanket of the stuff,
comfort,
and so sometimes you have to sit with that for a little while and decide whether that's something, that will pass through, like, as in that. So some reflection questions you could ask yourself is like, would you keep it if you didn't know who it belonged to?
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't know whose it was, would you keep it?
Yeah.
Would you keep the table if you didn't know whose it was?
No. I think another, for the way when I was thinking about that question, I think another question you could ask is, would you go buy this at a garage sale or an estate sale? Because it is it's your family's, but it's still a used thing. Right. Would you
buy it again?
Would you go buy it again at a thrift store or an estate sale or a garage sale? Yeah. Would you pick that out?
Yeah. Are you preserving that person, or are you just avoiding the pain of letting it go? Or does letting that piece of furniture feel like letting the person go, right? I think that's where it kind of gets all left, jumbled up in the emotion of, you don't want to let your memories of that person go, or let, feelings of that person go. And so that thing kind of gets stuck in the middle of it. Even though it's just stuff, it gets kind of stuck in there.
Well, we've talked about this so many times, but I think it's the crux of the situation is when you are holding on to things because of who they belonged to, how many things is that? Right. And by making a conscious choice to honor those things that represent them best, or represent memories between the two of you best, or represent their legacy best, then you are truly honoring that person. But when you're burdening yourself with the bulk of everything they owned to some degree, then that is never the path that's going to make you feel the best inside or treasure and honor that person in the best way.
Yeah, because I mean, I have lots of things in my house that aren't any kind of a legacy about me or, who I am or who I was or, like even in a different time in my life, like they're just there because they've been there.
Yeah.
And so trying to decide without the stuff, without looking at it, without, like thinking of the person and maybe journaling a little bit about what what your memories are of them as a legacy and, kind of coming up with that and then looking at that thing within the framing of that is, does that fit into that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can only keep 10 or 15 things maybe tell yourself that fit into that framing. And is this one of the most important things? And I'm not saying that because we think you should like let go of everything. I'm saying that because the more things you have, the less things are special, right? And so you can't honor all the things. It just doesn't work like that. And you genuinely, if you really think about it, you don't love them all the same. You just don't.
Yeah, and it's asking yourself what's the story around that thing? Is the story, this was out on the Christmas table for Christmas dinner every year and I love it so much and I, want to use this on my own table because it reminds me of my grandma or my mom or whoever, or is the story just like, I don't know, great uncle Tom owned that and, we should keep it because it was his.
Yeah.
And you don't even know the story. There's just such a difference in the clarity that those questions can bring.
Well, and I think the stories can go on without the stuff so easily. It doesn't. And okay, so I have this advent calendar that I've had since the kids were little. And at some point, one of them can have it, but both of them can't have it.
Yeah.
And so if they even want it, but they can absolutely take that tradition of an advent calendar of their own and tell their kids, grandma did this for me, and it doesn't even have to be the same thing. So if that's a legacy story they want to honor around, their childhood and me, then they can do that without the stuff at all. And so it really isn't about the stuff. So if you don't love it, like again, you have permission to let it go because those stories are really what matters. So sometimes there's fallout with the family, tension because, mom or somebody will be like, okay, here's this stuff, who wants it? And then nobody wants it. And then there's some hurt feelings. And then somebody's like, well, you should take it, not I'll take it, but you should take it.
Yes.
And, this whole kind of guilting because mom's not getting rid of it, which it's really hers to deal with. And it's fine to ask if, hey, does anybody want it? But not in a way of like, somebody here is required to take it in this room, before we leave this house. And so sometimes everybody wants it, but sometimes nobody wants it and they don't want to hurt mom's feelings or mom's feelings are getting hurt, or whatever that is. And so you have to just be cognizant that the stuff is not the person.
Right. And it's not a reflection. I mean, it's not a reflection of their love or care for the person, especially if nobody wants it. That, you can't pass that guilt of, well, you should take it.
Yeah, you didn't want dad's desk, but that means you didn't love dad. No.
Yeah, but you're not holding that guilt up as a mirror to yourself, which you should not do.
Right.
You can't just reflect that onto somebody else. It's okay.
And if you're the one being the keeper of all the things, that's also your choice. So own that because you could say no. I know that's hard and it feels like hard, but you can't like blame your siblings,
that they said no and you didn't.
Yes. Yeah. So that's some tough love right there, but that's the truth. You can't be like, I have all this stuff in my house and, my sisters and brothers wouldn't take anything.
You didn't have to take it either. Yeah. I think, if anything, we are the permission givers. You have permission to, let go of those things that aren't serving your life where you're at and let go of that guilt.
Because there will be things that do remind you of that person that you might want to keep, or maybe there's nothing and you just want to keep the stories and you want to keep them in your heart, or you want to journal them down, or you want to have a video of them, like whatever that is. Maybe you are like a total minimalist and you don't need any of the stuff, but you have the stories.
Yeah, or the tradition of, things in action, being someone that reads tons of books to your grandkids because your grandparents read tons of books to you, and it doesn't need to be all the same books, but you're carrying on those legacies and sharing that. I love reading to you. I used to love when, my grandma read to me, and you're passing on those legacies through actions and traditions versus a whole lot of stuff.
Right. So, guilt, resentment, like these are not things that we want to have looking at an object have that emotional reaction to, right? We don't need things in our house that when we look at them we feel guilty or we feel resentful or any of that. So if that's what's happening, like I don't want this item but I feel terrible to let it go, the I don't want this item is the end of the sentence, honestly.
But I think starting with that's normal.
Yeah.
There's lots of situations where lots of us have that same tug of war, and then it's just getting to that, okay, but the I don't want it is the end of the sentence. So, I think we've all at various times struggled with that guilt of, well, someone else wants me to keep this or do this, but I don't want to. And just getting past that.
So remember, though, that they didn't make the decision to let it go either. Like them wanting you to have it was them not making a decision. Right. And so, we've had people who have, designed their whole room around mom's piano that nobody plays and they don't even like it. Or, other things that they just feel like I need it. I had to keep that. And they don't love it. So life's short, guys. Like, love the space you're in. Don't live in a house where you're feeling guilty and resentful when you look at the things that are there.
All of those, little pings of emotion will hit you every day in your space. And it's just not a way to live, walking by, even if you're not consciously thinking about it. It's in there if you truly don't like it and love your space because you've burdened it with these things you should keep. That's hitting you at a level every day a little bit, and you can gain so much by just cleaning that out.
Yeah, and are you making decisions on love or fear? Like from love or fear? Fear is I'm going to forget them. I'm going to, feel bad if I let it go. Love is like, oh my gosh, I look at that thing and I remember my mom sitting in that chair and it makes me so happy. Right? It should feel like that, or it should. We're giving you the permission to let it go, and give yourself that permission. Really think about it and be like, okay, it's okay. I can still love that person and not keep every single thing they owned or way too many things they owned or any of the things they owned.
Yeah, so there's definitely ways that you can, keep that story alive without keeping all the stuff, creative ways, meaningful ways, but photographs are great. We're advocating curating your photos down to those important things, but this would be a great thing to have, a framed photo of, grandma at that piano.
Right. Sitting in the chair.
Sitting in that,
whatever.
playing that. And, if you've had it for a long time and you had another generation that enjoyed it, side-by-side photos. Those are wonderful ways to get rid of some of the bulk, but to keep it. And make sure you're making notes on your photos if you have physical photos of who it is and time frames. That makes the story a lot easier to keep going.
You can even video story, right? Like you can do journaling, any of that stuff, photos and a little journal under it about what it is. Make a little video around it. Take a little piece of it. If it's a whole armoire or dresser or something, you could take a little knob or take a little piece of the upholstery and put it into something else, put it into a little book and write about it.
I think there's lots of ways you can repurpose things if they're not getting use in the way that they currently are. We see lots of china hutches get converted to bar cabinets or coffee
Right.
cabinets, things like that. Maybe taking the top piece, those big, sometimes two-piece hutches. You could use, the bottom as a piece of furniture that works in your house. Painting or restaining things.
Yeah.
When you're continuing that story in a way that you do love the new style, you don't have to feel bad about the changes. Like Jody said, you could take just the drawer pulls off of an older piece of furniture and reuse those on something that fits in your home better. Or, there's lots of projects if you're handy, converting like bed headboards into benches and
Right.
entry tables and all the things I don't know how to do
Yeah, just go
myself,
on
but
Pinterest. You'll see all the things.
yeah, lots of ways to keep a piece of it just reused in a smaller way or a different way that works for you. And I was thinking back, we did that episode a while ago on the Swedish death cleaning
Yeah.
book, and they were talking about when you're rehoming something, when you're passing it on, tucking a little note with the story in when you're donating it or giving it to someone who can use it. So I think, just not even knowing where that story will go, and the little spark of joy it'll give someone else to hear that later on when they find it.
And they love it. Like when they find it and they're looking at it, they're like, that fits right into my decor. That's the perfect thing. And then they get the story about it and it makes it so much more special for them.
Yeah, and they can continue that on and keep it. I love that idea.
I think when you tell the story too, it is easier to let it go sometimes. Like, and people hear the story and you just share the story. Sometimes that's enough. And you realize the thing isn't that important once you've said the story. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And then you're just kind of passing it on with that note to the wind.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I like it too.
You can create a legacy album or a legacy box if it's a lot of things from one person, and that's back to curating what are the most special places. Maybe you have a shelf, where you're displaying a couple of those most important items as a comfort to you to see every day, but you're really making it a legacy and not just a basement full of boxes you're not sure what's in there, or rooms of furniture that doesn't give you purpose or love of them.
Yeah. And things can be really cool or interesting or whatever and still not have a place in your life. And that's okay. Like, somebody else is going to really appreciate them and pass that on.
Yeah, I think that is always the best way to look at it. If it's not serving you, who could it serve? Either in a functional way or just a love of the unique items.
Yeah. And if you find, oh my gosh, I really do love that, then put it somewhere where you can see it, in a place of honor that makes you really, appreciate it. And if you don't feel like you want to do that with the item, then that's telling you something too.
Yeah. And when you're looking to rehome things, I think we see this, I've seen this, if you've had something for a long time, definitely check with family first, because something that might have been a no at the phase that they were in at the first time, you can definitely ask again and say, okay, I've had this bedroom set from mom and dad's house, in my spare bedroom, but we're redoing it. Who wants it now? And there may be those younger generations that are at their first apartment, or, phases that they weren't at the first time things were asked about.
Yeah.
So do make sure you check with family, but if it's a no pressure, no guilt,
right,
then you find, someone else that can use it.
Yeah. And if you ended up with your, parents' things and it was a quick thing, something happened that was fast, definitely ask your family if there are things in there that they want, and don't make choices like get rid of half of it first and then ask them because you think, oh, that's all the stuff that's not important, because the things that are important to people aren't the most expensive thing. They may not be anything that you think about at all, but in their childhood, this happened around that thing, and that's the one thing they want. So just ask first before you get rid of any of it. And then, again, no guilt if they don't want to. Yeah. It's okay.
Guilt is not a gift.
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully this helps, just if you're struggling with some of those big heirloom items, especially furniture and those big items, to just realize what is your story you're telling yourself around it, and is that bringing you happiness or burden,
right,
and what to do with it next. We've got lots of resources in our other podcast episodes. We hope that you take a listen and give us some feedback or reviews if they're helpful to you, and our website, downsizingroadmap.com. If there's anything you need or any topics you want us to address, just reach out and let us know.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.